Manipulators catch you most in that exact the moment you open your mouth and start explaining yourself. Because in that second, you're now sitting in their courtroom. You've become the defendant. They become the judge. And they're not even doing this consciously. You walk over and sit in that chair yourself. Now, stop for a second. Think. You were late to work this morning. Your boss is looking at you in the hallway, saying nothing, just looking. And you immediately start. The metro stopped, there was traffic, something came up before I left. I'm never like this normally. Your boss didn't ask anything. They just looked. You already went on the defensive. So why? Why did that look make you feel so small? Why did that silence make you talk so much? Or think about this. You come home in the evening, you're tired, your partner says you didn't text at all today, and you immediately start, meetings ran late, I didn't have a time to look at my phone, you didn't text either. Defense upon defense, counterattack, and 2 hours later, you're still inside that conversation. The topic has long since shifted. Other things have surfaced, both of you tired and unhappy. So what actually happened at the beginning of that conversation? Who cornered whom and why? And why had you already lost at the very first move? Or think about this. In a group of friends, someone says something about you. Something unfair, something wrong. And you write pages of messages in that group. You share screenshots. You remind them of dates. You go back to the past. And when you wake up in the morning, you're both right and exhausted. Because the world doesn't judge you by the accuracy of your words. It judges you by the desperation of your delivery. The one who explains is the one who surrenders. The one who defends accepts the other person's authority to judge them. And this isn't just a matter of technique. This is the answer to the question of who you are, a test of whether you know who you are. Hervey Cleckley saw this long ago. For decades, he documented how people fall into this trap, case by case, year by year. And he wrote, "Power is not about being right. It's about who holds the frame. The moment you go on the defensive, you hand the frame to them. You enter their courtroom. You answer their questions. You play the game inside the reality they constructed. You can never win that game because they wrote the rules, they drew the field, they appointed the referee. So what if you never entered that courtroom? What if you took the invitation, read it, set it on the ground, and walked away? What if when the attack came, you did the strangest thing? Did nothing. The vast majority of people spend their lives as emotional puppets. Someone frowns, they apologize. Someone accuses, they explain. Someone writes 2 lines on the internet, they spend hours spinning those 2 lines in their head. They go to bed, they stare at the ceiling, they say, I wish I had said it like this, I wish I'd done it like that. They can't sleep. They wake up in the morning tired, because all night they kept defending themselves in an imaginary courtroom. The real conversation ended, but the one in their head didn't. That person is asleep. You're still arguing with them. Have you ever noticed this? Have you ever noticed that the argument running in your head at night goes on until morning but never ends? Have you ever noticed that the other person has long since fallen asleep while you're still looking for an answer? What kind of existence is this? The slow, unnoticed suffocation of the soul. Every defense is a leak. Every explanation opens a hole in your energy. Every apology gives a piece of your power to the other side. And years later, you look back and ask yourself, how did I become this exhausted? The answer is simple. I drained myself trying to manage how others see me. From morning to evening, at home, at work, on the street, constantly trying to control the stage. But the stage cannot be controlled. Leaving the stage and turning back to yourself, that is the real power. Now, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to genuinely think about it. Think of the person who affects you most right now in your life. How do you feel after every conversation with that person? Stronger or smaller? More energized or empty, as if something has been taken from you? And think about this. What do you feel when that person leaves the room or hangs up the phone? Does a sense of relief come? If your answer is yes, keep watching this video, because what I'm about to say is for you. To understand why people behave this way, you need to go back to age 5. At 5 years old, you learned that the only way to survive was to explain yourself. When your mother yelled at you, when the teacher accused you, you said, "I didn't do it, they did it, it happened like this, like that," and you were safe. You learned that authority figures held the power of judgment in their hands. You learned that survival depended on convincing that authority figure. The problem is, you grew up, but your psyche didn't. You walk through the world projecting that old authority figure onto everyone you encounter. Your boss's glance feels the same inside as your mother's glance. When your partner's voice rises, the same old panic comes. When someone criticizes you in a social setting, the same childhood reflex kicks in. Prove it, explain it, make them accept it, be safe. And this doesn't just happen in big attacks. Someone raises an eyebrow in a meeting. You immediately start with, well, what I actually meant was, someone replies late to your message on WhatsApp. You send a second message saying, "How are you?" Someone doesn't invite you somewhere. You step forward saying, "When should we meet?" These are all the same thing, seeking approval, waiting for a signal from the outside to feel safe. So have you ever thought about this? Are the ones withholding that approval doing so to keep you under control? Or are you giving them that power yourself? Which one is more frightening? When you defend yourself against someone, your subconscious is saying, "You are the judge, I am the child. Please accept the charge so I can feel safe again." This smells like weakness. And people, no matter how civilized they think they are, instinctively sense that smell of submission. Respect disappears because respect comes not from logic but from perception, not from being understood but from being respected. And in every defense you put being understood ahead of being respected. Now think about this. You're in a meeting at work and someone says, "This idea won't work." There are two paths in front of you. First path, you say, "No, it will work. I thought it through like this. I calculated it like that. Last year, something similar produced this result." You talk for 5 minutes. Even if you're proven right, you look weak because you went on the defensive. Second path, you nod your head slightly, pretend to take notes, you move on. The meeting ends. That person is wondering inside, did it affect them? Are they thinking about it? Why didn't they say anything? You left a question mark. A question mark is power. Or think about this. Someone says to you, "You never change," critically. Defense. What do you mean I never change? Last month I did this. This year I grew like this. Having internalized the power dynamic Hervey Cleckley documented for years, you say, "True, I prefer being reliable." One sentence, topic closed. Power is with you. And do you know what's behind that sentence? There's a secret. Very few people know this secret. The world of those who learn the difference between being safe and appearing safe changes completely. But to explain this, I need to continue first. Henry Kissinger, one of the most feared negotiators in history. He would sit down at the table, hear the offer, and then do nothing. For 45 seconds, he would simply look at the person across from him. He wouldn't blink, he wouldn't move, he wouldn't make a sound. His face would remain completely neutral. There's another person at the table. They said something. They're waiting for a response, and Kissinger is just looking. And the Soviet negotiators would collapse every time. They would start talking. They would soften their positions. They would make concessions. Kissinger hadn't said a single word. Now, I need to ask you a question. Have you ever experienced a silence like this? Has there ever been a moment when someone yelled at you or accused you and you simply stayed silent? And what did you feel in that silence? Because most people who experience that silence for the first time say, "I was burning inside, but I felt something change." Now bring this into everyday life. Your partner says, "You never listen." The old you immediately starts with, "What do you mean I never listen? I can repeat everything you just said." Voices rise, the argument grows. The new you just looks, stays silent. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And this happens. Your partner in that silence says, "Well, I just sometimes feel this way." Their tone changes. The attack softens because they found nothing to fight against. Or think about this. Your boss says in a meeting in front of everyone, this report is insufficient. The old you blushes, explains, lists justifications, defends. The new you says, okay, I'll look at it, and you go silent. After the meeting, everyone remembers you with respect because you didn't crumble under pressure. Or think about this. A friend says to you, you've really changed lately, in an insinuating way. The old you immediately starts with, how have I changed? Where have I changed? Do you think I haven't changed? The new you says, and sips their coffee. That friend now doesn't know what to do. They feel compelled to keep talking. And as they keep talking what they actually meant, why they said it, their own inner discomfort surfaces. You did nothing. You just stood there. And think about this too. Someone on social media wrote a comment wrongly criticizing you. The old you writes a long response, shares screenshots, says, no, it's not like that, it's like this. Thousands of people watch that argument and instinctively see the one on the defensive as weak, even if they're right. The new you sees that comment, looks for a second, and moves on. You don't respond. And that non-response becomes the most powerful response. The Stanford negotiation research in 2018 showed this with numbers. Those who strategically used silence in conflicts achieved 23% better outcomes than those who felt compelled to speak first. They simply stayed silent. They did nothing else. The ego was screaming inside, say something, defend yourself, give a clever answer, but they stayed silent and they won. This requires tremendous inner control, because that 5-year-old child inside you is screaming, understand me, accept me, let me be safe. You will hear that voice, but you won't listen to it. These are two different things. Hearing is unavoidable. Listening is a choice. Sometimes silence isn't enough. You need to speak. Even then, never defend yourself. Instead, amplify the attack. Turn it into a caricature. Drown it in the absurd. This is called agree and amplify. How does it work in everyday life? They tell you you're too emotional. Defense? No, I'm not. I just have empathy. That's not a flaw. Weak, predictable, useless, the powerful. You says, you're right. Last week I watched an insurance commercial. I cried. I sent a thank you email to the ad agency. Straight face, a slight smile. The attack dissolved. Or think about this. Someone says, you're always late. Defense. Always is an exaggeration. Last month I was never late. Powerful you. Yes, I've adopted being late as an entry strategy. You stand better on stage after everyone is seated. Or someone at work says, you're too much of a perfectionist. You're hard to work with. Defense. I just want to do the job right. Is that a bad thing? Powerful you. You're right. My therapist says the same thing. We're working on it. Straight face, topic ended. Or think about this. Someone says you do anything for money. Defense. That's a very unfair comment. I would never sell my values for money. Powerful you. You caught me. Every Tuesday I swim in a gold vault. It's terrible on my back, but it's become a habit. Now stop and think. Is the person giving these answers giving them genuinely, or are they using a memorized technique? The answer to this question is the most critical point in this video, because the same words coming out of two different people's mouths produce completely different results. One looks powerful, the other looks ridiculous. Where's the difference? I'll explain shortly. This amusing mastery signal skill. Amused mastery, the clearest sign of high status. The attitude of a parent watching a child throw a tantrum. You don't get angry at the child. You don't argue with the child. The drama amuses you because you know you're safe. When you defend yourself, you get down on the floor and scream alongside the child. Stand up, look from above, laugh. And at that point, the other person feels something strange. They say, you can't get to this person like that, but they don't know why? Because their attack found no target. They keep holding their weapon, but there's nothing to hit on the other side. And eventually they're forced to put that weapon down. Someone who knows they're generous laughs when called stingy. Someone who knows they're intelligent laughs when called stupid. Someone who knows they're honest when told you always lie simply looks. If you're defending yourself, it means somewhere inside you there's a fear that they might be right. And that is the sign of the only real work you need to do. Robert Greene writes in The 48 Laws of Power, if someone tries to put you in a box, don't fight the box. Because if you fight it, you're still inside the box. Make your box a subject of ridicule. Dissolve it. Their frame finds no foothold on you anymore. Now we're going into the deepest layer, and this is where everything connects. All these techniques, silence, caricature, answering a question with a question, fogging, reclaiming the frame, none of them work if they don't come from within. If you stay silent with a trembling voice, it collapses. If your eyes dart away, it collapses. If your body language is screaming, please understand me, the words will collapse even if they're correct. Because dark psychology is 20% words, 80% frame. And to build the frame, you first need to build your inside. This is precisely what Hervey Cleckley documented for decades in his work, The Mask of Sanity. The most effective manipulators don't target your weaknesses. They target your wounds. The difference is significant. A weakness is something you can't do. A wound is something done to you, something that stayed inside you, something that's still bleeding. If you go on the defensive when someone calls you a failure, it means somewhere inside you there's a fear they might be right. But if someone told you you have green skin, you'd laugh. You'd say these people are crazy. You wouldn't even bother defending yourself because that wound doesn't exist in you. Now stop and genuinely think, which accusation affects you most? Are you selfish? Are you inadequate? Are you unreliable? Are you unloving? Are you cold? Are you a failure? Which one, when it comes, makes your insides tighten most, makes your voice change most, makes you want to explain the most? Have you found that word? Because that word is a weapon made from your wound. And manipulators find that weapon, not consciously, instinctively. Once you reacted to that word, once your voice trembled, once your eyes filled with tears, they took note. Now they press that button and you jump. So have you ever wondered about this? How do those people find that button so quickly? They don't know you. They haven't known you for long. But it's as if they're reading your insides. This is not a coincidence. This is a skill. And understanding how this skill works is the only way to make it unusable against you. There's only one way to break this. To look at that wound. Not to run from it. To accept it. To be able to say, sometimes I am selfish, and not have your insides tighten when you say it. To be able to say, sometimes I feel inadequate, and not fall apart when you say it. To be able to say, sometimes I behaved unreliably, and not shrink when you say it. Because you cannot shame a person who has accepted. You cannot expose a person who has nothing left to hide. You become transparent. Light passes through. Arrows pass through. Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space lies our freedom. Manipulators try to close that space. They stimulate you so fast that you can't think before you react. But when you learn to open that space, that pause of a few seconds, that deep breath, that silence, you're no longer playing their game. You're playing your own game. And in your own game, you're always the home team. For the next 7 days, play a game. Its name, no defense. If you're late, just say I was late. Don't give the reason. If you spill coffee, just say I spilled it. Don't blame the glass. If someone misunderstands you, let them misunderstand you. Don't correct it. If someone says something unfair at work, just look. If someone says you're a bad person, just laugh inside. If someone attacks you on social media, walk past. Don't respond. Sit inside that discomfort. Feel the desire to manage your perception. Burn that desire until it turns to ash. Watch what happens. First comes shock in those around you, then respect, then a strange pull, because people are drawn to certainty. In a chaotic world, finding a calm center is rare, and there is no stronger certainty than a person who doesn't need to explain why they exist. You're reclaiming your energy. You're plugging the leaks in your soul. You're stepping out of the role of the child and into the role of the sovereign. You're no longer a castle that needs to be defended. You're the wind. Arrows pass through. Light passes through. And when people look at you, they feel something strange. They say, you can't get to this person like that, but they don't know why. They don't know because this is no longer a technique. This is a state of being. Keep your silence. Keep your power. Keep your mystery. Now, I need to ask you a few questions. Keep these on screen. Don't skip ahead. Genuinely think. Think of the last conversation you had with the person who exhausts you most in your life right now. How many times did you defend yourself in that conversation? How many times did you explain? How many times did you say, but I wanted it like this, I thought it like that? You misunderstood. And how did you feel at the end of that conversation? Did you come out of that room stronger or emptier, smaller, more tired? Think about this too. Did that person ask their questions to truly understand you, or were they testing whether you'd jump? And after that conversation, did that person's respect for you increase? Or did they come back harder next time, return with a bigger accusation? And think about this. Before every meeting with that person, do you feel a slight tightening inside? Do you want to go, or do you feel like you have to go? The difference between these two things is the clearest indicator of whether that relationship is healthy. Because manipulators are mapping. Every time you react, they mark a coordinate. They say, this works here, this doesn't work here. And the more you react, the more detailed that map becomes, the more sharply it gets used against you. So what happens if you never react? Their map stays blank, their compass stops working. And do you know what a manipulator without a compass does? Either they genuinely change or they leave. Both outcomes are in your favor. And think about this too. How many people in your life right now do you feel compelled to constantly explain yourself to? How many relationships are there where you always feel like a defendant? How many conversations are there where you're planning how to end them before they end? If the answer is more than one, the problem isn't with them. The problem is in the power you've given them. And you now know the way to take that power back. On this channel, these conversations go deeper. How manipulation works, why power sits in some people and doesn't stay in others, why silence is the least used yet sharpest weapon, why dark psychology was never taught to you. We talk about these not just from the surface, but from beneath psychology, from history, from real cases. And let me also say this. There's a chapter in Hervey Cleckley's book. The vast majority of people who read that chapter suddenly start seeing a certain person in their lives differently. We'll be covering that chapter in the next video. This is as much as YouTube allows me to show in this video. There's more. There are layers of power dynamics that were never taught to you. There's a world that explains not just how to protect the frame, but how you set it up in the first place, and that world is on this channel. 90% of people pass through these patterns in their lives without seeing them, and they burn out, they shrink, they tire, without knowing why. Subscribe, but not for me, so that you never go to bed again with that empty feeling.